Assignment or practice might seem a little bit goofy. Next week it'll make a lot more sense why we're doing what we're doing, but really it's just we're playing with numbers right now. So this is called the diamond problem, and if we look at this first one, the directions ask us to figure out why these four numbers are where they are. There is a relationship, there is a pattern, and you could, if you think you have it, see if that pattern works here. And if it works there, see if it works there. And then, over here we have some negative numbers. See if it works there. In about 5 seconds, I'm going to tell you what the pattern is. So I'd encourage you to pause it and think through it yourself and try to find it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the pattern right now. Pause it if you're trying to find it out. Seriously, I'm going to say it right now, so pause it if you want to figure the pattern out. The pattern is we take the two numbers on the side right here and we multiply them to get the top number, and we add them to get the bottom number. 2 times 4 is 8, 2 plus 4 is 6. 1 times 10 is 10, 1 plus 10 is 11. Negative 5 times 7 is a negative 35. When we add negative 5 and 7, it's 2. So these diamond problems always use the left and right number multiplied to get the top number and added to get the bottom number. We're going to use this skill, these number skills, shortly here. Now, if you're like, oh man, my multiplication facts are not that good, there is a multiplication chart. I encourage everyone to have one because there are some numbers that maybe we forget how to multiply to, or there's a set of factors that is not commonly used for us. So this is a factor chart. It goes from 1 to 100. So for example, how do we multiply to 74? Well, 1 times 74, but then there's also 2 times 37. It shows you all the ways to do that. If you look at 96, there are a lot of factors, a lot of numbers that multiply to 96. Factors are numbers that multiply to create some number or something. In fact, we'll see factors of polynomials here next week. It'll be really cool. So, how do we solve some of these diamond problems? 4 times 6 is 24. And it adds to 10. 3 times 2 is 6. They add to 5. 7 times negative 8 is negative 56. That adds to negative 1. So really you can just be using a calculator here to finish up the top and the bottom. However, really, I'd encourage you to try to do it in your head first. Having these multiplication facts down and being able to add is going to be very helpful coming up here. So here we are. I'll let you finish the last two on your own. Now, we know that 7 plus something adds to 10. So I can figure out that this number has to be 3 because 7 plus 3 is 10. So then the top number is 21. The bottom number again is the sum of these two numbers. So what adds with 9 to 13? It's 4. So then 9 times 4 is 36. So this is a different form of the diamond problem where we're missing a little bit of information, but we can find it using the bottom number and knowing that the left and right have to add to the bottom. So here 7 plus what is 2? Negative 5. I mean, you could even make an equation out of this. 7 plus what? I put an r in there for the right number equals 2. You could solve for r. It has to be negative 5. So now our product of 7 and negative 5 is negative 35. Here, negative 6 plus what equals negative 4? It's going to be positive 2. And then 2 and negative 6 multiply to negative 12. That's pretty sweet. Try these four. Once you're done with those four, now we move on to these where we have the left, or sometimes we have the right, and we also have the top number. So that's the product of the left and right. The left times the right equals the top number. So 5 times, and here's where your factor chart comes in handy. So I know that the numbers multiply to 20. So, and one of them is 5. So the other one would be 4 then. And then 5 and 4 add to 9. Remember, we're multiplying to get the top number, we're adding to get the bottom number. Now here it's negative 18, so if we're going to use our factor chart, think of this as a negative 18, and then really either this first number is negative or the second number is negative. So let's see here, what do we have? Well, if this number, if the 6 is negative, where do we, 6 and what makes 18, 6 and 3? Well, the 6 was positive, so the 3 has to be negative. I misspoke. The 6 was negative, so the 3 has to be positive. Or if we multiply two numbers and one of their signs is negative, it multiplies to a negative number. And now we add these two, and we get negative 3. Negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. Here we get 4. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 plus 4 is 11. Here, negative 1 times a what is positive 7? It'd have to be a negative 7. Negative times a negative is a positive. And now when we add those two negatives together, we get negative 8. Just like that. Maybe I'll go to this one lastly. What times 11 is negative 44? So we could go to our factor chart. It was a negative 11 that was a factor of 44. So the 11 is negative, so the 4 would be also negative. It's negative, oh man, my memory's bad. It's really early this morning. So let's try that again. It was a negative 44, and the 11 was positive. So that means the 4 is negative. Let's go back and see if that works. It's nice to have these two sheets side by side. Yes, negative 4 times 11 is negative 44. And then we add them up, we get 7. You got a few more to try down there. All right, here's where the rubber hits the road. This is the most important type of diamond problem of all of these, and you'll see why next week. Now we're looking for numbers that multiply to 14 and add to 9. So now your factor chart's really helpful because there's a couple ways to multiply to 14. So it multiplies to 14 and adds to 9. So here's the two ways to multiply to 14, although really I could make both of these negative and it would multiply to 14. I can make both of these numbers negative and it would still multiply to 14. So there's actually 4 different options. There's always twice as many ways as what you see here when we think about negative numbers. So it adds to positive 9. So take the multiplication symbol out and turn it into an addition sign. This pair right here, 2 plus 7 is 9. So it's 2 and 7. Here we have a negative number. I'm going to skip this one. I have two numbers that multiply to negative 8, and then they add to negative 2. So numbers that multiply to negative 8, this is your factor chart, so this is the ways to multiply to 8. But it's a negative 8, and it's going to add to negative 2. Well, that was a plus sign. It adds to negative 2. So now, if we're multiplying to negative 8, there's actually 4 ways to multiply to negative 8. And honestly, I like on the diamond sheet or what we're doing next week, I usually write the factors down. So I go over here and I recopy it down. So I have, well, it's a negative 8. So it's either negative 1 times 8 or 1 times negative 8. Or negative 2 times 4 or 2 times negative 4. Those are the 4 ways, the 4 factors to multiply into negative 8. and multiply to negative 8. So now which of these ways, when you change it to an addition sign, add to negative 2? Right there. So my magic combination is 2 and negative 4. And by the way, it doesn't matter on these diamond problems if you put the 2 here and the negative 4 there, or vice versa. Addition and multiplication are commutative. It doesn't matter what order you do that. When you multiply, no matter what, you get negative 8 with these two numbers, and when you add them, you get negative 2 no matter what. Let's try 72. If you look at 72, there's a lot of ways to multiply to that. There's a lot of factors of 72. And we're trying to add to, boom, 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 17. Trying to add to 17. Now, because that's a positive 17 and that's a positive 72, since it's a positive 72 that we're multiplying to, either both sets of factors are positive or both are negative. Well, since it adds to a positive 17, then they both have to be positive. So, pretend these multiplication symbols go away and put plus signs there. Which combination add to 17? Right there, 8 and 9. So that has to be the right solution here. Let's go to this one right here. We're looking for factors of negative 12 that add to positive 1. Let's clear the slate here. So negative 12 add to positive 1. So here are my factors of 12. And again, I might write this out to the side, but we actually want negative 12. So that'd be negative 1 times 12, or 1 times negative 12, or negative 2 times 6, or 2 times negative 6, or negative 3 times 4, or 3 times negative 4. And let's just go back and look at the problem here real quick. Yeah, negative 12 adds to positive 1. So is there a combination here that if we change this to addition, we get a positive 1? That doesn't mean the numbers are pretty close together. It's this combination right here that also add to a positive 1. So that's the right answer here. So it was 4 and negative 3. Alrighty, let's just look for some more negative signs. See any more negatives? Right here. This would be the same idea. We're multiplying to negative 24 now and adding to positive 10. So we could take our list for 24s but make it negative, which means one of the numbers is going to be negative, either negative 1 times 24 or 1 times negative 24, etc., etc. And with practice, you get kind of good at this, where you can kind of see the right combination. We were adding to positive 10, I believe. Yep, negative 24. I'm doing this one right here. Negative 24, positive 10. And that's going to be right here. Oh, just kidding. That's going to be right here. These two numbers multiply to negative 24, but when I change this to a plus sign, I get positive 10. So negative 2 and positive 12, I believe is right. Let's double check it. Yep, that works out. Cool. Let me get rid of the square. Oh, oops. Let's try this one right here. This is a good one. So we're looking for ways to multiply to negative 13. And add to what? Positive 12? Yeah. So there's only actually a couple ways to multiply to negative 13, either negative 1 and positive 13, or positive 1 and negative 13. Because we're trying to add to a positive 12, that means it's this first combination, negative 1 and positive 13. Let's try this negative 20 right here.